Topic number one here, folks, of the conversation for tonight's show, and it goes to Pro Football Focus dropped a list on Thursday. It was the top 10 wide receivers returning to college football for next season. Now, normally, when I look at something from Pro Football Focus, the site that dives into the analytics of both college and professional football, there are moments where they hit and they are dead on and they are geniuses in some areas. And then there are areas where I look at what PFF puts out and I go, are you serious? You got to be joking me. You got to be kidding me. Did you guys really put in actual work with this list or with the information that it put out in the graphics that it does? And its unveiling of the top 10 receivers returning to college football, John Metchie of Alabama was not mentioned on the list. And an Alabama fan pointed this out to John Metchie on Twitter, and Metchie responds with, duly noted, locked in, I see it, I got him. Metchie is ready to prove Pro Football Focus wrong in the upcoming season because he knows here is some added motivation for him to show them, okay, you did not mention me, you did not list me, you're not taking me seriously as a big-time receiver in college football. Let me show you how I work. Let me show you how I get down. Let me show you, as the young man from Canada, I can make it do what it do. At the wide receiver position, the Crimson Tide losing two number one guys to the NFL, that being Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. So John Metchie, an opportunity for him to be the number one receiver for the Crimson Tide and show the world he is big-time football in terms of the collegiate game. Now, the 10 guys that PFF did put down on paper as the best returning receivers goes like this. Number one, it had Chris Olave for Ohio State. I don't know who the Buckeyes will have throwing him the football, seeing as how Justin Fields is off to the NFL, but Pro Football Focus has Chris Olave at number one. Number two, it had Olave's running mate for the Buckeyes in Garrett Wilson. Number three, PFF had Justin Ross of Clemson down. Ross did not play at all this past season due to a neck/spine type of injury there, but Pro Football Focus still had Justin Ross on its list. At number four, it had George Pickens out of the University of Georgia. At number five, PFF put down Treylon Burks from the Arkansas Razorbacks. Number six, it had Marvin Mims out of the University of Oklahoma. Number seven, it had Jaquarii Robertson out of Wake Forest. Number eight, it had Khalil Shakir out of Boise State. At number nine, it had David Bell out of Purdue. And at number 10, rounding things out, it had Ty Farfogle out of Indiana. And of this list, the only one name statistically that put up slightly better numbers in all three categories, receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns, than Metchie had was Roberson out of Wake Forest. He had 62 receptions for 926 yards and 8 touchdowns. So that was the only option that had better numbers statistically than Metchie, but I don't understand why Metchie was not included in this list. This was a young man that's coming off a national championship. None of these guys on the list, with the exception of one, that being Justin Ross, have a national championship to their name. Now, Justin Ross won one for Clemson as a freshman in the 2018 season, the 2019 game, but aside from Ross, none of these other guys have a national championship on their resume. John Metchie, an SEC champion a season ago, got to the college football playoff, had a huge performance all year. Metchie showed this past season that he can be explosive. Yes, he dropped some passes. Yes, he did not come down with a couple of balls there from Mac Jones, but he will get better in that area. He will grow in that area. He will improve in that area. But even with the drops, this was still somebody who totaled 55 catches for 916 yards, 6 touchdowns, had 2 100-yard games, one against Texas A&M where he had a career-high 181 yards and 2 touchdown catches on 5 receptions. And then against Tennessee, We all saw Jalen Waddle went down in that game, but right after Jalen Waddle went down, John Metchie did his little thug thizzle. 7 catches for $151. So we have seen moments where Metchie can explode. Metchie can be the number one target. He can go out there and go get it. Then we've seen moments where Metchie is concerned. Against Georgia this season, he did have a touchdown reception. We have seen moments against Florida where he puts in not just big numbers offensively, but defensively, where he blew Trey Dean up. I mean, rocked his skull, rocked his mother, rocked his grill, rocked his world. I mean, Trey Dean is still probably having nightmares in his subconscious about that rocket of a hit he took from Metchie in the SEC title game. Dean fumbled the ball on the play, and Devontae Smith recovered the bag on the play in question. So we have seen moments of dominance offensively from Metchie and also defensively from the young man as well. In the national championship game against Ohio State, he was not 100% healthy, battled a slight injury. Metchie still 8 catches for 81 yards. And coming from north of the border, he had the biggest and hardest learning curve coming from Canada, because there are different rules in Canada. There's different tricks of the trade in playing football in Canada. So coming from the Canadian aspect to the U.S., he coming to the U.S. from Canada and playing in the Southeast region here, you know, he had the biggest learning curve, he had the steepest learning curve, but he was able to adjust. He adjusted, he got better, he played well, and like I mentioned, even though he had a few drops here and there, I don't see where a few drops could hinder him from being on the list of the top 10 returning receivers to college football. I mean, if you can have Chris Olave, who got shut down in the national championship game against Alabama, on the list, if you could have Justin Ross, who did not play a game last year, on the list, if you could have George Pickens, who didn't have the statistical numbers that Metchie had on the list, if you could have Treylon Burks and Marvin Mims and Khalil Shakir and David Bell and the kid from Indiana, if you could have all of these options on this list, and once again, statistically, all of these options, with the exception of Roberson out of Wake Forest, did not even hit the numbers that John Metchie hit, did not even win a national title, did not even go to the college football, or did not even beat him in the college football playoff with a national championship. Then Pro Football Focus, how focused are you really? But we've seen this happen before, right? When when Jalen Waddle, got hurt against Tennessee, what were the major talking heads saying then? Well, Waddle's hurt. Alabama does not have another explosive, big play, big time, big production wide receiver, and without Waddle, there is no way they can win a national championship. Well, Devontae Smith heard that. His numbers went to the upper echelon in 7 of the 8 games that Alabama did not have. In 6 of the 7 games, but Alabama did not have Waddle on the field. All Smitty did was go for over 100 yards. In a couple of those games, he had 200 yards. And even in the national championship matchup where Waddle was on the field, Smitty still with bonkers out there. 12 catches for 215 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Oh, by the way, all of that happened in the first half. He didn't need the second half. All that happened for Smitty in the first half. So we've seen this before. National talking heads felt like, okay, Waddle's hurt. Nobody else can do what he does, so we can just put Alabama underneath the rug. Devontae Smith goes, hold my beer, not so fast, check me, watch the drip, see what I do out here on this field. So here is John Metchie, after looking at Pro Football Focus, saying he is not one of the best 10 returning wide receivers. He's got motivation all spring. He's got motivation all summer. He's got motivation in fall camp. And he will have big motivation in the 2021 campaign, this upcoming campaign in the fall, to prove PFF wrong. But he is that dude, that bad man on the block in college football. Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best in Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.